Radical! Welcome to this week's episode of the Print on Demand cast. Each week, join the gnarly Travis and Josiah as they provide insight into the print on demand industry and equip you with the totally tubular tools, advice, and strategies you need to achieve success and hopefully have a few laughs along the way. Now on to this week's Totally Tubular show.
Hey everybody, welcome to the first fresh content edition of the Print on Demand cast for 2023. Last week I was stranded in the Great White North that I'm going to call Wyoming. But this week we're here, we're back, a new episode, new content. Travis, good to see you again, my friend. How was your New Year's? Did you guys do anything fun, anything crazy? Or I mean, I know, the first was on a Sunday, so if you there's those of you that had church probably didn't get too rowdy. But how was your weekend, New Year's weekend, and yeah, how did it all go?
Yeah, we definitely chilled out on the New Year's Eve weekend. Just we were still decompressing from
Christmas,
yeah, Q4 and all the craziness. And we shared a couple episodes ago about how I hadn't really had a lot of time to reflect, and it was really interesting because I did actually go to church, and it just so happened. I mean, it's kind of the quintessential beginning of the year sermon, or but it was more of a couple of exercises that we did kind of as a church family, and it was really focused on taking a minute to reflect on 2022 and seeing things through a different lens, a different perspective, like we talked about it. So it was really interesting, and it actually helped me a lot because it gave me a little bit of incentive to actually reflect and look at 2022 and also think about 2023. So yeah, and then the rest of the weekend was just kind of hanging out with the family and doing absolutely nothing because we didn't have anything to do. It was great. I loved it and would love to. I probably need another weekend like that,
Yeah,
if I'm honest.
just a weekend to just chill out and not have any real pressing agenda. So
right. But you were up in Wyoming, as you've got the Yellowstone hat on.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a little bit further north, but the train station is in Wyoming, so
it sure is. It's
hopefully you didn't go there.
No, I avoided the train station, thankfully. But yeah, Wyoming was good. What left Wednesday evening with intentions of coming back Monday, but the snowstorm hit, and it was like we knew there was going to be a storm, but it was like record-setting levels. Just people getting stuck. My sister, who has like a 4-wheel drive Tahoe, who drove up from Alabama, she was there with her boyfriend, and they got stuck in that car. Like, that's how much snow was on the ground, and it was just like ridiculous. But other than that, man, it was good. It got a little bit like Groundhog's Day for me, because being there for 7 days, it was like the first night got there, and my family is hyper nocturnal creatures. So for the first night, I stayed up till 4:00. Second night, 4:30. Third night, 4:00. Fifth night, 3:30. New Year's Eve, 3:00. So I mean, I didn't go to bed. I'd be up at 9:30 having coffee with everybody in the morning, going to breakfast. It's just how my family operates, and it's really easy for me to slip back into that kind of rhythm, I guess. So my sleep schedule when I got back was completely ruined, but it did get a little like repetitive. It was like, wake up, eat some breakfast, have some coffee, watch movies, play games. There's football. Let's watch football. All right, sweet. Let's watch another movie. Let's play more games. All right. Good night. Wake up in the morning. Hey, we should have some coffee, eat some breakfast, watch some movies, play some games. There's football. Let's watch football. I mean, it was just the same thing on repeat. So about Monday, Tuesday, I was like in this space of like, I have to get back to my normal rhythms because I'm falling apart. I need to get out of here. I love my family to death, but I got to go home. So headed up Wednesday, and was smart to stay those extra 2 days because there were a couple instances where I almost made it to the train station, if you understand the reference, because the road was so slick. So it was a little bit sketchy even on the way back. But all told, man, it was good to be with family, and kind of the same thing where I have nothing to do, just hang out and watch movies and
that's great.
do that. So it was a good time. yeah, so the new year seems to have brought a lot of excitement. Everyone's always excited for a new year, new me, that whole thing. But
Mhm.
you had something exciting happen this week that we're going to use for this week's point of interest.
Point of interest.
We haven't used that one in a while. That's nice. It's
It is.
always a good touch. So this week, you had an article be released. You were going to show some of the video of you flipping through said article.
Mhm.
That is the in-hand print version. But for those of you that are wondering, or maybe you don't have the access to the magazine, you can actually find it. We posted it in our Facebook group. There's a digital version right here.
Yeah.
So, Travis, tell us a little bit about how in the world this came to be, and what the process was, and just
Mhm.
kind of front to finish what that was like, and how it feels to be, I guess, a published author, as it were.
Well, yeah, it is cool. I'm very thankful. But so back last year, you and myself and Tate, our production manager, we all went to a Graphics Pro Expo here in Denver, and it was a pretty small show. As far as the Graphics Pro shows go, it's actually their smallest show. But while we were there, Tate actually won hockey
That's
tickets
right.
to
I
an
forgot
Avalanche
about
game.
that. Yeah.
And it was just random. And so we had to go and talk to, the Graphics Pro people and get the tickets and, say, hey, we're here. We want the tickets. And when we did, I didn't realize this, but we found out that Graphics Pros actually, their headquarters,
Like
their like
local.
national headquarters is like one city over. It's in Westminster. We're in Broomfield. It's like
Yeah.
we border each other really close, probably 10 minutes from like where I'm sitting right now is where their headquarters is. So anyway, we got to talking, and they came over to our shop, and, we did like a little tour, and I showed them around. And as we were talking, we talked about, I got to go on their podcast. They have a weekly or biweekly podcast that I was on a while back. And while we were talking, they were like, hey, would you also like to write for our magazine, or submit something at least? And so I said, sure. And so this actual article that was printed is all about, it's more directed to people who have a print shop already and they're not doing print on demand. And it's kind of trying to open their eyes to what print on demand is. It's very similar. We'll be in Long Beach for the ISS show next week, towards the end of the week, and it's very similar to the talk that I'm going to actually give, because that's the audience. It's the audience is people who already have print shops, or they wouldn't be at ISS, or they wouldn't be getting this magazine. And
Sure.
so I'm just trying to open their eyes to the idea of the potential that there is with print on demand. And so yeah, it was really, really flattering, to be asked to do that.
Yeah.
And it feels pretty cool when you see your little picture up there, and and it's
Yeah.
other people are seeing that and reading it. And I've already been asked to do another article, I think in March or April.
Nice.
And yeah, I'll probably be doing that, every few months, for the foreseeable future. So really thankful to Graphics Pro. We actually really need to get one or two of their people on the show. And
Yeah.
that's my bad, because they had me on their show and now it's their turn. And I've dropped the ball
Time
there.
to return the favor.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome, man. So again, it's in our Facebook group. If you guys want to go see and read the digital version, you can find that printondemandcast.com/Facebook is where you can go to check that out, scroll through, see what Travis had to say, and let us know what you guys think of the article. Comment on the post, or let us know in a separate post in the Facebook group. We'd love to have you guys peruse it. Check it out.
I would say one more thing too. If you're interested in that magazine, I don't know that you have to It's not, I don't have a subscription to it. They just send it to me because I probably signed up
Sure.
at a show or something like that. So
Right.
if you're interested, I'm sure you can get an actual copy,
Yeah.
maybe not of this magazine, but you can get on their subscription list and get a magazine every month. And they have all kinds of really cool things in that
Yeah.
magazine. It's always fun when I get it. I do kind of leaf through it and maybe read an article or two. And yeah, I really enjoy it. I know maybe some people are more digital, but I'm kind of old school. I like holding something in my hand. But yeah, that magazine is highly recommended. Graphics Pro magazine.
Yeah.
If you're looking for something like that, and again, I think it's free if you just go on their website and ask for it.
Awesome. Yeah. So avail yourself of that as well if you guys want the hard copy. But yeah, like Travis said, I do remember getting those and you want to leaf through it because they've always got something cool, something that you
Yeah.
might not have known before. So, with that being said, we're going to transition into this week's main event.
Main event, who's calling?
I don't know why I pitched my voice that way. Main event instead of, yeah, it was weird. It was like almost an incomplete thought. Anyway, this week we are going to touch on something that we have touched on before, but the title of this week's main event is 11 Things I Wish I Knew When I Started POD. Now, hold on, folks. I know you're thinking, is this going to be a Lord of the Rings length series saga? 11 things with the way these two men talk and their long-windedness. No, we've already touched on 6 of these before in episode 48. So go avail yourself of that. Hear what we had to say about those first 6 items. We're going to touch on them as briefly as humanly possible for Travis and I. No promises.
It's
if you
still
guys
going to take a
seriously, if
while.
you guys are coming to Long Beach and you want to go out and hang out and like we're worse in person, especially when there's beverages flowing and we're just having a good time. So you'll learn all you need to know about he and I as individuals if we just hang out. You might have to slap us and tell us to stop talking. Anyway, the first 6. Number 1 was treat it like a business before it becomes one. And I think that is super important because even if it is something you're doing just for side income, you got to kind of treat it and structure it like it's a business if you even want your side
Yeah.
income, your side hustle to be successful.
Yeah, we've talked about this a bunch. It's important that you treat it like a business. Go get your, EIN. Don't use your personal banking, or your personal checking account. Get a business checking account. Figure out what it means to actually be a business in your state and
Yeah.
treat it like that. Because if it does grow, you're going to have to figure all that out later and probably switch a bunch of stuff, which is never fun. So just do it from the beginning. Yeah. Right, Josiah?
Yes. Yeah, it sucks when you retroactively have to do all of those things. So, number 2 is another thing that I learned the hard way as well. Is SKUs are important.
Yes, they are.
How to name them, having a strategy of how you name them is important, and they're important because if you want to, expand onto different platforms and you want to, move your product on other places besides Amazon and Walmart, it's good to have a spreadsheet laid out of your SKUs because most of these platforms can use flat files and most of them use SKUs to identify what exactly is being sold. And even for your own knowledge, even if you don't have plans to expand, it's good to just have a spreadsheet of these SKUs so you know what's being offered. I know like Uncle Mike has stuff that on some accounts he'll just cycle through. Some listings are away for a bit, some listings go back. And so without SKUs to organize that, it's got to be miserable. It is miserable. I know.
Yeah. And not only SKUs, I mean, kind of sub point B is like your print files. And I like to use the SKU kind of as the name of the print file. So I know what's what. It's very, that's an easy way to get away with it.
Yep.
But you don't want to be searching for, astronaut on the moon .png when that particular t-shirt sells,
Yeah. Yep.
because eventually maybe you have 10 shirts that are somewhat related to an astronaut on, in outer space or whatever,
Yeah.
and trying to organize all that or figure all that out and search Dropbox folders, and it becomes nightmarish. But if you can just go directly to a specific, you see the SKU that's sold on the platform, and you can open that up in your, by searching that particular string of letters and numbers, and it pops right up with your art file. It makes
Yep.
it a heck of a lot easier. And you'll be glad that you do that earlier than later, because
Yes.
later you're going to have more to do,
Yep.
because you're going to keep adding designs, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do
Doing
it
all of
early.
that retroactively is the worst idea possible. And if you need more testament to that fact, message me on any social media platform you find me on. I'll be happy to talk to you. Number 3 was samples matter. I think we touched on this primarily because especially when you're doing drop shipping, if you're not doing production in-house, it's good to know and see, one, just the quality of what you're sending out. You don't want to send something that's going to be subpar. If you find a fulfillment partner, you're like, well, these prices are really cheap. Wow, it's great. I'm just going to go with them. And you don't get samples. There might be a reason that they're cheap. It's because they're poorly made. But aside from that too, I think was just to be able to speak intelligently about your product to your followers, to your customer base, if they have questions, or if you're trying to actively promote and sell. It's just good to have those.
Yeah, it's kind of allowing your supplier to kind of put their money where their mouth is. This particular supplier says that they can do this thing. Well, let's see, and let's see what the quality is. Let's see what the shipping time is. If you, you order this thing and it comes 4 weeks later, that's probably not the best look for your fulfillment or your print on demand company. So you might not want to use them. So there's a lot of factors that you can figure out just by getting some samples. It's not just about quality. It's about, maybe you can open up a support case and see how fast they answer you, just really kind of test the waters. So it's not just samples of the product, it's samples of the company that you're intending to work with. It's just testing them out in as many ways as you possibly can. So you know what you're getting at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember too. I think as much as you are shopping, or I guess let me rephrase it. As much as you're trying to make sure that you're a good fit for the supplier, you also need to make sure that the supplier is a good fit for you. Like, don't be afraid to vet them and put them through, like procedures. Like if they vet you, they ask you questions. This is assuming you have contact to, like, let's say a Make Your Mark design. I've had conversations with people where I'm asking them questions. Who's your followers? And then I fully expect them to say, well, what's the quality? What's the turnaround time? I need some samples. Let me see, because you just want to make sure it's mutually a good fit for both parties that are involved.
Totally.
The next one, number 4, was consider bringing things in-house when volume justifies. I think one of the coolest things about print on demand is that you can use it as proof of concept, as what is actually working. And so if there is something that's just skyrocketing, a particular coffee mug, let's say, you're just selling it by the caseloads. Well, maybe it's time to maybe cut the middleman out and make more money for yourself, knowing that particular design or product is selling well. It kind of hedges your bets.
Yeah, and you don't have to bring everything in-house. Maybe you're
Right.
selling t-shirts and, tote bags and, jewelry and wall art and coffee mugs. And coffee mugs are really easy to do. You're on your own. And if you could figure out a way to just drop ship the stuff that you don't want to spend a ton of money on machines to do, and, but you have the time, or somebody in your family maybe has the time to fulfill the orders for the things that you can get started for an inexpensive amount of money, it can really pay off in the end. And who knows, maybe 5 years down the line, you're, sitting in a dark office recording a podcast because you fully jumped in and did buy all the machines for all of your products.
Yeah. Could happen.
Here's to hoping.
Yeah, exactly.
Some days.
Yeah. Number 5, other POD sellers are not competition. I think that's one thing that's important to keep in mind. And it's weird. I mean, if we thought other POD sellers are competition, we wouldn't be sitting in a dark office making this podcast.
Right. Yeah, we would be sharing this information with you guys. We'd be trying to hoard it and hide it and keep it behind a paywall and,
Yeah.
all of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think, knowledge is one thing. It's great to have, but then it's the implementation, it's the doing something, and unfortunately, statistically, in these kinds of situations, um, giving people knowledge isn't enough for them to take action, and so not everyone's competition, and not only that, you could find some pretty really nice relationships that they are forged if someone does something that you don't offer. If you do have production in house, maybe they have embroidery
Mhm.
and you don't, and they don't have DTG, vice versa, whatever. You can have a really nice, mutually beneficial relationship that stemmed out of that, but you won't know that if you are shunning people out just because they happen to also be in the print industry or also do print on demand.
Yeah. I mean, I can't tell you how many um, printers just locally that we have used to help us do larger orders, or
Yeah.
screen printed orders, or
Yep.
things like that. And they have also sent us business because somebody comes in and they want 10 or 20 things.
Right.
That screen printer may not want to mess with that, or they have a full color face, on an image or on a shirt or something. They're not going to want to do that for 20 pieces,
Right.
but it's nothing to us because it's all digital here. So there is a mutual benefit to networking, and not necessarily keeping your cards close to the vest.
Sure.
It's definitely it's that whole idea of a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yep.
And if we can share something with you, maybe you're going to share something with us that's going
Yeah.
to help us in the future. And so definitely a mindset shift
Sure.
for me personally, because when I came into this way back when, I think I was a little bit more guarded, and wasn't sure what to expect. But as we've had this community, the print on demand community, as I've, gotten networked with other printers in our local area, it's obvious that there's some good people in this industry
Yeah.
and they just want to help. And it's been fun. It's been a fun experience to have a community built around a common interest. And hell, even having a podcast about it's been a blast too.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And number 6 is keep your sales funnel filled. Keep fishing.
Mhm.
As I guess primarily would be for those, at least in my initial thoughts of when we spoke about this, probably has to do if you're trying to land clients and make their merchandise and or sell their merch or help them
Mhm.
monetize, whether you're using a drop ship provider to do so, whether you have it in house. I can tell you from years of experience that you can't. One big fish account is great, but it's seasonal. There's ebbs and flows.
Mhm.
Social media, their account could be suspended tomorrow. I mean, you never know
Right.
really what's going to happen. And in my experience, it always seems to be, when you get a client that has decent size in following and are good marketers, which are few and far between. Influencers aren't always marketers, which is kind of funny. But the first 2-3 weeks, gangbusters, and then they're out of ideas. They don't know how to
Yeah.
sell again, and so you're back to square one of casting that line out again and trying to find another one of those or 4 more of
Mhm.
those to happen
Mhm.
simultaneously. So you always have to be propositioning and soliciting business if that's the model that you're choosing to go down.
Right. I think the 6B on this one could also be, if you're not soliciting others and you're not doing what you just said, and you're just drop shipping or selling on channels, I would think that keeping the sales funnel filled would also require you to have some type of a design schedule.
Sure.
So as holidays and special times of year come up, you have
Yeah.
products that you've previously researched that have gone through the pipeline, have been, the mock-ups have been made, the descriptions have been written, the titles, all of those things, and they're actually available. So you're constantly ahead of the curve. You're keeping your product pipeline filled,
Right.
as you're going up throughout the year. So that's kind of a 6B,
Sure.
if you will, for our drop shipper friends.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, folks, we made it through the recap in under 20 minutes. So let's all just celebrate. That is a victory.
I want to win.
Nice.
Here are the next 6 or 7. We said 11. I'm lying. Here's the next 5. I don't know. I don't know what is happening right now. So okay. So the first one
Mhm.
would be know your numbers. And Travis, I know this is something that you really focused on in 2022, like Q1 of
Mhm.
2022. So, when you say know your numbers, why do you wish you would have known that? There's different products have different margins, which you don't really think about when you're entering in. You just think everything is going to make you $15 a pop or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah. I mean, the obvious, there's so much. This is a whole show in and of itself, in my opinion. You're right. Like in Q1 of last year, we really did focus a lot on our numbers and tried to figure out like how much time does it take to make this product versus this product versus this product, and
Yeah.
and how does that factor in with labor costs, and how can we bake all of that into a true cost of goods. So then we can say, okay, if we sell it for this, then this is our profit margin.
Yeah.
and like you just said, different products are going to have different product margins, and even where you sell those things can potentially have different product margins, because maybe you can't charge as much on eBay as you can on Etsy,
Yeah.
or you can't charge as much on Walmart as you can charge on Amazon. And so your margins reflect that. Then, of course, you've got the post office that continues to raise their rates, and
Yeah.
so the cost of actually delivering your product to your customer continues to go up, and you have to take that into consideration. There's just so many things. So I said we began back in Q1 of 2022 really digging into this. I'm still in the middle of digging into this. We have a lot of work done, and all of that work is now informing kind of the second layer of knowing our numbers, if you will. We're trying to expand it to where we know down to the order how much we actually made on a particular order.
Sure.
We're looking at, all of our costs to operate this facility, kind of the fixed costs like rent and utilities and things like that. And that can be broken down to a per square foot basis. I mean, there's so much you can do when you have data. And so I know this is a very, very brief overview, but we are still in the middle of really breaking this down, not just by product, but by channel,
Yeah.
by department. So we want to have like a 40,000 foot view, a 10,000 foot view, a 1,000 foot view, and then a 10-foot view.
Sure.
If that makes sense, and have all of these different ways to zoom in on our numbers, because like the numbers are the business. I mean, if you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. If you ever watch Shark Tank, you know it.
Yep.
Mr. Wonderful is always saying, he's going to kill you if you don't know your numbers. and there's a reason for that, because it's probably one of the most important things in business. And so you take all of that stuff, and then that becomes your pricing model. That's what you base your prices on, not what that store over there is selling for, that store over there. You base it on your numbers and what you need to make to keep the lights on, so to speak. And if this is a side hustle, maybe that's not as quite as important to you. I mean, this is my livelihood, this is how I feed my family. So it's very important. So maybe that factors in, but really, if you want to scale this thing, if you want it to grow to a place where perhaps you can do this full time, you need to know your numbers, and you need to know them now, because later it's going to be even more difficult. And I attest to that, because we waited to really, really know them.
Yeah.
And now it's taken, we're in, this is year 1. We're coming into year 2
Yeah.
of putting all of this into place and really understanding this. I can't stress it enough. It's kind of like that whole getting organized, SKU structure, being a business, all of that. It's just as important as
Yep.
all of that. It can be overwhelming, but you owe it to yourself and to your business to put the hard work in, or hire somebody that can put the hard work in.
Yeah.
What I did. I hired somebody.
Yeah.
He's doing
Yeah.
super cool things for us.
Speaking of hiring, that kind of is a good segue into number 2 here of things we wish we knew. Hire slowly, fire quickly. And that's, I mean, whether you're drop shipping and you have VAs, whether you are hiring production help, something that I know Travis and I can both attest to, because both of us have had to hire and have had to fire people in our tenure in print on demand. But I think the misnomer here is sometimes what you find even in the church background that you and I both come from is it's a warm body who can be present. So fill the need. You know what I mean?
100%.
We just need somebody, and they may not be the best or the qualified, but hey, it checks a box, fills a position. But what happens when you don't take the time to vet people, it ends up really costing you productivity, which then ends up costing you money in the end. And I think there's a hesitancy to also fire quickly. Like the minute this isn't working, you should probably just pull that trigger. I know there's this tendency to fall in love with potential, but
Yeah.
most, which is also, advice I've given to my nieces and nephews of like, don't fall in love with potential, because you're going to spend a long time hoping that potential manifests, and who knows how long that's going to take. So
Right.
you just have to act quickly when like this just isn't a fit.
Yeah, and I'm horrible at this. I'm horrible.
Well, I think
at this.
you and I both, at least on the fire quickly side, we always want to. I think our default is just to give people the benefit, give them a second
Yep,
chance. Hey, we get
exactly.
it. You're new. Benefit of the doubt. You and I are both naturally very friendly and relational people, and so it is hard I can see where it would be hard to just separate yourself from that side of yourself and just be the analytical person that's like, you're great as a person, I enjoy you around, but you're killing me. You're killing my business.
Yeah, even on the hiring side, it was always great to have other people in that process, because I'm like, this person's wonderful. I see no problems with this person. They're probably going to work for me for 20 years,
Yeah. Yep.
And then, Amy, or, my former operations manager, or Mike, when he was helping us out, he'd be like, well, did you see they had a gun? Or no, I'm just kidding. But, it's just something that they would pick up on that I wouldn't necessarily have picked up on. I'm like, yeah, I can see that. And it's also helped me get better at the interviewing process, because I've learned a lot, because I've had to, go through a lot of people. And yeah, to your point, firing them sucks. That's so hard.
It's not
You want to wait. You want to give them time. You want to give them a chance. I mean, I've had multiple people that just, there was one production guy that was really good when he started. He was a young guy, really good, did a great job. I was like really excited. And then all of a sudden I started seeing him like on his phone, just sitting at the desk he's like, and I'd be like, hey, do you got some orders? He's like, no, I did all them. Okay, well, you got time to lean, you got time to clean, or
right. Yeah.
or something like that. Or could you have come to me and asked, or somebody,
and
said, hey, I'm done. What can I do?
help? Yeah, for sure.
Or you're just going to sit here and, scroll social media on my dime. I mean, that was the red flag.
Yeah.
And I should have been like, and we did actually end up writing him up. But literally, like, he called in a couple times. He did a no call, no show. And then we were going to write him up for that. I think that was actually, it was a fireable offense. And then the next day he just was like, yeah, I'm not going to be back. Thanks. And we were like, oh my gosh, had we put that process into place a little earlier, perhaps we could have had somebody, at least had the ad running for, started looking at,
have someone on deck, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. So I shot ourselves in the foot in that regard. And it took us a long time to finally get somebody in DTG that's relatively reliable. And, and they're not perfect. And, but they know the machines, they're hard worker, and it's worked out for us.
Sure.
But it took a long time to find that person.
Yeah. And I'll say too, like, I think almost anybody has the capability of interviewing well or knocking an interview out of the park. You know what I mean? It's a one-time, maybe 30-minute interaction where you're presenting your best self. And if you've interviewed a lot, you know the right answers and you know what people want to hear. Like it's easy to interview. I worked for a company before I got into print on demand. It was, a surveillance company where there were lots of techs that would be hired. And before I left, I was trying to implement a kind of like a monitoring process. That's not the right word I'm looking for, but like a trial period for these techs, because they'd interview really well. And then you'd get out there and, one guy in particular, I kept having to schedule people to go fix his mistakes. And I said, dude, what is going on? Like, I don't understand why we're having to fix your mistakes so much. And I said, well, do me a favor. Tell me how this is supposed to be connected. And he started connecting different colored wires to different colored wires. And I said, that's not the same color. Turns out he was colorblind, right? We could have avoided that had we had some kind of test or some kind of preventative thing, like, hey, we need to know these things. Another guy got on a job site, called me, said he was going to quit. I said, why? He said, because he has a fear of heights. We didn't ask that question, but they're on ladders all day, right? So of course, if the dude's on a 16-foot ladder running wire through a shopping mall, he's going to probably, if he has a fear of heights, not be very comfortable. We should have asked that question. So it's a lot of those things of like establishing those kind of dating periods, as it were, to where, they might ace the interview, but then give them 30 days and put them through the ringer, give them responsibility, do all of that stuff and just see how they hold up before you really just go wholesale all in on that person. Cause you just never know. Interviews aren't always the best indicator of performance, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's a long-winded explanation of that.
Yeah. So hire slowly and fire quickly, or
so you get nothing.
That's right. And you can avoid all of the
emotional damage
of having to rehire 1,000 times.
Exactly.
All right. So the next one here would be activity is not equal to growth. And Travis, you put a sub point on this of work on your business, not in it. So why is this something that you wish you knew before you kind of dove into the industry?
I mean, it's probably not fair to say I wish I knew this before I got into the industry, because Michael Gerber's been talking about this for years with his E-Myth book. And the idea is very simple. You don't, as the owner, you want to be working on your business. You want to be building it, scaling it, doing things that are going to increase revenue, increase efficiencies, scaling out operational benefits, things of that nature, as opposed to working in your business, actually making the products or answering the customers' emails, or, if you can maybe limit that to a certain point or part of your day, and then the rest of your day is working on your business. I haven't even mastered this. I just think it's kind of one of those things that before you go into any business, your goal should be to get to a point that you're not the one doing all of the stuff.
Sure.
That's why we talk so much about virtual assistants and,
Yep.
you know, adding those people and having SOPs, standard operating procedures, for people to come on and help take away those things that are in your business so that you as the owner can work on your business. And, you know, creating the SOPs, creating new SOPs for new ways to bring in revenue. If you're having to answer all the things and put out all the orders and you know, print all the labels and all of that stuff in your business, you're not going to have any time to do all of those other things.
Right.
And obviously we have a wide range of people, from solopreneurs to people who have employees,
Yeah.
people who have virtual assistants. And so, you know, your mileage may vary with this advice, but my goal is for you is to put into place ways in which you are slowly working yourself out of a job, so to speak,
Sure. Sure.
getting out of the way, because there's always more to do for the owner. There's always, you can put out as many fires as you want. And that whole activity is not equal to growth. It's 100% sure, or 100% true, because you're just doing a bunch of stuff. You're answering emails, you're doing, you know, you're printing, you're answering questions from your staff, you're doing all of these things.
Yeah.
And before long, the day is over and you have done nothing to further your business. You've just maintained your business.
Yeah.
And if you know anything about the laws of the universe, you are either growing or you are dying.
Yeah.
There is no maintaining. That's a
Yeah.
lie that we tell ourselves.
Yeah. 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 That's good. Yeah. So let's go to the next one, the importance of creativity. I think this one is important because if you get into print on demand and you want to sell on Etsy or Amazon,
Mhm.
and you don't know the importance of creativity, you may think that you can copy someone else's idea. You might think you can throw out a bunch of Yellowstone t-shirts and have no repercussion of listing those for sale. The reality is there's some stuff that is copywritten that
Mhm.
you can't just go out there and make a bunch of Friends TV show shirts. You can't, and my wife can attest to that. She tried that on Etsy and got her hand slapped very sternly.
That's terrible.
It was terrible. Little PTSD, but no, it just goes, I mean, being creative and coming up with your own unique ideas on what to sell, researching
Yeah.
what's popular. Do you want to make, you know, t-shirts based on knock knock jokes? I mean, that's kind of public domain, right? I guess knock knock jokes.
Mhm.
And you want to make designs based off of that, which, by the way, I'm just going to say this right now. I think the person who invented knock knock jokes deserves a Nobel Prize.
Time for the weekly dad joke.
Hey, we weren't going to forget it again, folks. We forgot it on our last episode, and we endured great shame for doing that. It was awful, but there you go. There's this week's dad joke. But seriously, I mean, researching what's popular, but then making your own designs that are quality based off of that and not piggybacking off of what someone else is doing. It just sets you up for success in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, everybody wants to be creative, and so there's kind of this fine line between researching and copycatting, you know, if you will.
Yep.
And there's, you know, there's a lot of people that go out and they go, "Ooh, that's a great idea. I'm going to take that phrase and I'm just going to put a different thing on it."
Right.
And, you know, that's kind of a gray area. You know, some people are like, "Yeah, that's totally fine." Other people are like, "Oh, that's horrible. That's the worst thing ever." I kind of land in the middle of that, but I do agree with those who say, make your own freaking design, you know,
Yeah, for
have
sure.
your own ideas. And there's nothing wrong with like going after a specific niche,
Sure.
you know, and you know, you want to do a bunch of things in the fisherman niche. You're probably, even if you're 100% creative, you're probably going to design something that's similar to somebody else's thing.
Sure.
Just because there's nothing new under the sun, you know, technically. We're there's only so many things you can do about fish, and fishing
Yeah.
and all of that stuff. So there's probably going to be some
There's only
crossover there.
so many anglers you can take on that particular.
Time for the weekly dad joke.
Yeah, it's a twofer.
Yeah,
It
twofer.
just comes to me. How can I say? I'm not even a dad yet. All right. Anyway, continue.
That's great. I loved it. That was absolutely beautiful. Yeah. All I'll say about that is, that the creativity side of it kind of goes with the like researching what's popular and then designing for that thing. But it also
Yeah.
goes with, like you said, the copyrights. Certain phrases are copyrighted,
Mhm.
and anymore, Etsy or Amazon, they're not necessarily just slapping your hand; they are crushing your dreams.
They're stepping
In a
on
lot
your
of cases.
throat.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
you really want to be careful with that because you have an asset. It's called your Etsy account or your
Yes.
Amazon account. That is an
Yeah.
asset, and but you don't own it. Unfortunately, you are playing in their sandbox, and
Yep.
they can take their toys and go home and kick you out of their sandbox the moment you trip up. So the importance of creativity is literally a lifeline when you're talking about these channels, because if you aren't creative, and you do infringe on somebody's trademark or their copyright, you very quickly could find yourself with no channels to sell all of these things, all of these products on,
Yeah.
except maybe your own. And even then, you can get a cease and desist letter. I mean, I know Disney just went hog wild recently, sending all kinds of cease and desist letters all
Yeah.
over, not just to Etsy, but like to individual sites that people were doing, selling, infringing on their property. So don't mess with the mouse,
Yeah. Don't do it. And if you are doing it, you might have to rethink what you're doing and kind of go a different direction and
Mm.
just avoid all of those things. So the last one we'll do here is customer service has a place even when drop shipping.
Mhm.
I think there might be, I mean, coming into it, you don't really think if you're drop shipping, if you have someone else produce your stuff, maybe customer service isn't something that's even on your grid,
Right.
right? Because you're not handling the production, you're not handling the shipping times, you're not handling any of that. So why would you then be responsible? The reality is that the customer does not care who your drop shipper is. They don't know your drop
Yep.
shipper. They know
Right.
you and they know your
Mhm.
store. I used to work for Verizon and we were an indirect dealer, which means that we had certain permissions and other things that we could not do as an indirect agent. We couldn't, do pay people's bills or do some stuff that was like only corporate stores could do. That was a bad example. But the point is there's stuff that we couldn't do.
Mhm.
And when service outage in our area and those people came up to me and they wanted me to fix something that unbeknownst to them was outside of their parameters, I couldn't say, "Hey, sorry, we're not Verizon."
Mm.
Because to them, it's all the same. They see the logo, they see the sign, that's all they care about. It's the same thing with people who are shopping your store online. They don't care if your fulfillment guy is Travis at
Right.
Make Your Mark Design. They don't care if it's Joe Schmo from Printify. Shout out to Joe Schmo if you're listening. They don't care if it's Printful. They just don't care.
Mm.
So you have to be ready and armed with information about the order process, about where their package is. You have to know this information because when they have a question, they will go to you. And if you try and pass it off, your shop is going to get so poorly rated by the
Right.
people who shop there. You will not have a long life in the e-commerce space if you
Yeah.
don't if you think you can get away without doing any customer service.
Yeah, totally. I mean, last week, we kind of rebroadcast an episode, all about customer service. So,
Yeah.
if you listened last week or if you haven't listened yet, there's a lot to be said about it. I actually went back and listened to it, and you know what, Josiah, we're not dumb people. We're
Do
pretty
we know what
smart.
we're talking about?
We do a little bit.
Wow.
Yeah,
All
we
right.
talk about like using scripts,
Sure.
when certain things happen, and because there's a lot of different scenarios that you can find yourself in, and
Yeah.
it does matter. You need to, the idea from just kind of a overview of what we were talking about last week is that you have to You have to be able to massage the words in such a way that your customer comes away feeling like the thing that they were asking for, there was a justified
Sure.
reason for it happening, and or they have justice in the resolution somehow.
Yeah.
They have to feel good about the resolution.
Vindicated. Yeah, or
Yeah.
feel good about what
And
they
you
came
have
to you
to
for.
you have to be able to communicate that to them in a way. So if you're not a writer, get one. And
Yeah.
because you need to be able to communicate that most likely in the written word.
Yeah.
But it's just as important, like you said, for drop shippers as it is for anyone else.
Yep.
You are in the customer service business, because without the customers, you don't have a business.
Right.
That's how
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah, that's 100% how it works. And I think it's pretty timely that we rebroadcast that episode, because every year Q1
Mhm.
January, it's earned the nickname Returnuary for a reason. Whether you're drop shipping, whether you do production in house, you are probably dealing with an increase in customer service requests, whether it's returns or questions or breakage or whatever. So you're gonna have to be ready for that, even if you are just drop shipping. So, and then I guess we have one more. We have one more bonus thing.
It's a
If you're,
bonus.
it's a bonus. If you're going to trade shows, make sure you have a road wife. Okay, that's a free one. That's a
No,
free one.
no one knows what you mean by that, but okay. The more you know.
So what that means, it's really, so Travis and I are each other's road wives when it comes to these types of events. We've done many trips together
Mhm.
to various trade shows and conferences around Amazon and print on demand and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So just have a travel buddy, like Toy Story. Got my moving buddy. You gotta have someone that you can take with you, that maybe they're in the industry, maybe they're not, but someone to take in the information, help you kind of process, and then keep you standing up straight in the extracurricular activities that may take place when the trade show is over and you're just having a good time.
Let me just say that I don't feel like the actual bonus tip was make sure you have a road wife when you attend trade shows. I think the bonus tip was actually go to trade shows.
Yes. Yes.
And if
That
you do, the bonus for the bonus is, make sure you have someone you can go with.
Yeah.
A road wife, as it were, or a road
Yes.
husband, depending
Sure.
on your gender.
Sure.
That was awesome.
So yeah, that is the real bonus, is trade shows. They're
Yeah.
awesome. You'll learn a lot. Travis and I have told the story ad nauseum about our
Yeah.
Portland experience. So it's so well worth it. So
Come on out to Cali next week.
yeah,
and,
we will
join us.
We will be there. Shoot us a message on the Facebook group, DM us on Instagram if you're going to be in the area. Uncle Mike, don't DM us. We know you're going to be there. Okay. We know we've already talked about it. So if I get a message from you, anyway, so no, message us and, let us know. We'd love to hang out, love to see you, love to meet you, and break bread, as it were, with you guys. So Travis, anything else before we wrap this up? This 11 things we wish we knew.
There's probably more things that
And
we
there
wish
probably
we
is a
knew.
lot more. It's probably very, very true.
But I don't know that I need to know them yet. So we'll have to come back to that.
You don't know
in a
what
year.
you need. You don't know what you need to know when you don't know what you need to
Yeah,
know.
or
So
something like that.
it is what it is. So
I don't
yeah, I
know.
mean, this will be an annual thing. We'll just revisit this and add 22 things we wish we knew. It'll be a two-parter at that point. But hey, if you guys want to reach out to us,
Attention hotline fans.
there are a couple of ways to do that. You can, of course, reach out to us. printondemandcast.com/Facebook is where we are, where the community is, where the conversation is. It's a private group. You do have to answer a series of questions. Answer those questions. If you neglect to answer the questions, we will neglect to approve you. It just has to be done. We need to know what your intentions are with this community that we have cultivated on Facebook. So answer the questions and send a request, and we'll be happy to add you to the community. We're also on YouTube and Instagram. printondemandcast.com/YouTube/Instagram is where you can go to reach us on those platforms. Lots of content being scheduled out, folks. 2023, we found a secret sauce tool that maybe we'll talk about some other time and fill you in. But lots of content, lots of clips being added. There's also going to be a lot of stuff happening on our Instagram because when we go to Long Beach, we are going to be creating some content that is very friendly to Reels and to Instagram stories. So you're going to want to be a part of that journey as well. Just brace yourselves in 2 weeks for an inordinate amount of Long Beach, California content. If you don't go to Long Beach, you will feel like you have been there when we document everything from the flight there to the flight home for you guys. So be sure to follow us there as well. If social media isn't your thing, you hate it, I get it. You can email us, info@printondemandcast.com is where you can reach out to us and still let your questions be known. Your suggestions, your advice, whatever you guys want to chat with us about, you can email it there as well. And as always, wherever there are podcasts, the Podcast is there for your listening pleasure. We just ask if you happen to be using the Apple Podcast app that I will forever refer to as iTunes, leave us a review and a rating and let us know what you think of the show. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, your favorite dad joke, etc. Whatever it is, we just want to hear from you, and we love the feedback. And what it really does is helps this content get in front of the people who need to hear it. So on that note as well, feel free to share this episode. There's a share button on Spotify and on Apple Podcast. Share this, text it to your friends, post it to your own Facebook if this is information you feel like more people need to hear that you know. Please do so. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. So I think, Travis, I hit all of the notes there, and we're ready to wrap this up, and we're under an hour officially. It's going to be impressive. So
Nicely done. We did a great job.
We did. We win this episode. So thank you guys so much. Until next week, for Travis, I'm Josiah. We'll see you next time right here on the Print on Demand cast.
See ya.
Hey, babe, thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Print on Demand cast. We hope you enjoyed the Totally Tubular Show. If you've got a question or a suggestion for the show, send Travis and Josiah an email at info@printondemandcast.com. Want to be wicked nice? Take a minute to rate and review the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe now so you don't miss next week's episode. See you next time, for sure.